welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Hi, this is Lisa.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
And we are here for Turn the Page. Amanda has a new book out, coming out this Tuesday, I believe.
Yep, Tuesday, March 15th.
Called Sadie on a Plate. And I guess we'll just let Amanda tell us a little bit about it, and then I have some questions.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. So my new book, Sadie on a Plate, is a rom-com about food. It starts off when Sadie gets fired from her job at a fancy restaurant, and also dumped by the same person. Not a great decision there. But she's kind of bereft and down in the dumps until she gets an invitation to compete on her favorite cooking reality show, Chef Supreme. And on her way there, while she's hoping that it's going to revive her career, she also has a meet cute with a hot guy on the plane who sweeps her off her feet on a whirlwind date at like a cool speakeasy in Brooklyn. And she really likes him. But of course, she's going to the show and she can't see him for 6 weeks, except then she turns up on set the next day and realizes that he is the new judge. So they're not allowed to tell anyone they've interacted. They're not allowed to interact further on set, but there's a lot of tension between them. So you'll have to read the book to find out what happens with all of that tension.
And I really enjoyed that, by the way. I have to say, I really enjoyed this book. It was on my radar before we were asked to do this interview. I was always planning on reading it, so I'm really glad that I get to talk to you about it.
Thank you so much.
It really, I loved every bit of it. But so I'll start at the beginning. Is Chef Supreme based on Top Chef or Master Chef or a little bit of both? I'm not really like an expert on the food shows. In fact, the only food show I watch is Fast Foodies. And that actually does have a Top Chef winner, Kristen Kish.
Oh, I love Kristen.
And Jeremy Ford, and an Iron Chef winner, Justin Sutherland. So that's like the only thing I know about any kind of thing. So I didn't know if it was based on any of them, or maybe just a little bit of both, or a little bit of other things.
Yeah, so there's elements of like multiple kind of cooking reality shows in Chef Supreme. And then there's some stuff kind of my own invention too, but it is mostly based on Top Chef, which I'm a huge fan of. And the new season is on now, and it's my one like appointment viewing night that I watch live.
At Top Chef, are they not allowed to have any communication with the outside world?
No, they're sequestered in in either a house or an apartment. I know things have worked a little bit differently with the pandemic, where they've been at a hotel. But yes, they are totally sequestered from the outside world, with the exception of the occasional phone call or FaceTime with family or something. But they're not allowed to have internet, as far as I know, unless things have changed. They're not allowed to, just have their phones, and they're kind of kept in isolation.
And do they have like that person, that go-between person that like they do in the book, with somebody who kind of like watches over them? That one, I mean, I don't know if you know.
I'm not 100% sure, but I assume they have the producers and the producers' assistants who work with them and kind of facilitate everything they have to do. But it was just a really fun environment to work with just like a house with all of these people in it, unable to communicate with the outside world, all competing against each other, all with these relationships back and forth, lots of tension between them in different ways. So it was just a really fun environment to write about and work with.
And sleep deprived too.
It
seems like Sadie was very sleep deprived, to the fact that every Sunday she seemed to just sleep right through.
Very sleep deprived.
Do you have someone like a Grandma Ruth, or is that just something you just made up?
Grandma Ruth, I think, was the biggest surprise to come out of that book. I'd originally intended it just to be kind of a throwaway line, where she's thinking of food and recipes, oh, what would my grandmother make in this moment? Because on shows like Top Chef and Master Chef, there's always a lot of kind of talk about family recipes, about people who have inspired them. And a lot of time it's a grandparent, like the chef will grow up cooking with the grandparent or eating the grandparent's food. And the Grandma Ruth just kept popping back up. And she really became an integral part of Sadie's subconscious throughout the book, which I thought was a lot of fun.
It was a lot
As for
of
me,
fun.
as for me, my family, my grandparents, my grandma Roz did make some great food for holidays. Like I still think fondly of like the mushy carrots and the matzo brie and things that she'd make for the holidays. But she's not, constantly haranguing me in my head, which I think is a good thing. Sometimes I like to think that she's like, looking down or supporting me or something, but not the constant haranguing like Grandma Ruth does. Although with a good heart. She has a good heart.
I have a grandmother like that too. And, I always think of her like potato kugel and things like that. Like every once in a while, I'm just like, when I'm making matzo balls, I'll be like, she would not make them like this. So I guess I kind of identified with the whole thing. Of all the dishes that you described in the book, which one do you think would be your favorite? There were a lot.
Oh my gosh. I think I would love any of the books, really. Any of the dishes, except maybe the chicken feet that she makes for the Halloween challenge.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
I just, I've heard good things about chicken feet, but it's just something I can't get over it. But yeah, I think, I don't want to spoil some of the later meals, but I'll say I really liked the first meal that I had her make, which was for the first challenge. She ends up making kind of like a smoked salmon and rice porridge kind of modeled after a bagel with I believe it had like a seaweed coating, and that just sounded really good. I was hungry constantly while writing this book. Everything made me hungry.
And I just thought it was amazing they had matzo there. It's like, of course they had matzo there. It's probably from like 2 years ago.
I think that was probably stretching the truth. I'm not sure if they'd actually have matzo in the real Top Chef kitchen, but.
Is there a reason why you chose Seattle for her home base?
Not really. I just needed her to take like the longest flight possible to New York because I knew I wanted to have the show take place in New York. So I was like, it either has to be California or Seattle. And I have a friend who lives in Seattle and could correct me on any inconsistencies. So I went with that path.
That's a good idea. Yeah, because it had to be a long flight for them to
to really bond.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have a favorite winner in any past season
of Top Chef?
Yes,
I love so many of them. I actually gave Sadie the middle name Brooke after Brooke Williamson, who is a Jewish, I believe, don't quote me on this because I'm not 100% sure, but she might have been the first Jewish woman to win Top Chef. And I was really inspired by her. I loved her food. I always rooted for her on both of her seasons. So I was excited for her. And I also really love Melissa King, who won a couple seasons ago. She had the most amazing calm demeanor. Like I feel like I am not great under pressure, especially if it would be televised. So I feel like I just spend if I was on Top Chef, I just spend most of the time kind of running around shrieking, and everything I would think I know about food, I would forget immediately, just, faced with the time limit and the camera lens. But Melissa King just had like this amazing kind of calm, relaxed demeanor the whole time. She was always so soothing and chill, and her food was always amazing. So I love her too.
This is your first book for adults, and before this you wrote for teens and children.
Yes.
So what was the biggest challenge you found shifting from children to adults?
I think honestly it wasn't that big of a challenge. I think really, no books are easy to write. Books are always hard, but I would say I had an easier time writing for adults than I did writing for teens or writing for kids, because I think writing Sadie on a plate, Sadie is around my age. So they're really, and she's not me. I had to kind of still get into the head of a different character, but I wasn't either like going back in time or trying to remember what it was like to be a kid. It was still very much in the same, late 20s, early 30s perspective versus writing for teenagers is a lot of going back in time and remembering I might not react to this event this way now when I have more perspective and am more mature, but at the time I would have reacted this way. And then, writing for middle grade, which are some of my books also, trying to get in the mind of a 12-year-old is, going even further back. And that's very difficult because, it feels that's more than half of my life ago. That's a very long time ago, and it can be hard to remember how you think about things and react to things at 12. And I'm wowed by people who write books for kids younger than that, who have to get into the mind of like a 5-year-old to write a picture book, or like, a 7-year-old to write a chapter book. I find it very hard to get into, those past years to write a book from that perspective.
Yeah, I could see. So while I was doing research on this, I saw something that says that you grew up next to an amusement park in New Jersey. So I've been to many. So which one was it? Was it Six Flags? Was it Action Park?
It was Six Flags. And it was fun growing up there because, we had season passes every year. My mom took us every year as a kid. And then I worked there in high school for 2 years, and that made it less fun. It was still fun. It's still a really cool place. And I'm glad I got to grow up near there, and working there. Actually, it was very fun because you did get to like kind of see behind the scenes, and you got to know the people who ran the roller coasters, so they could like, slip you past the line and give you the front spot in the roller coaster. So yeah, it was a fun place to grow up.
Now, do they still have a safari, right? I mean, I remember when I was young that we used to go there a lot, and there was like giraffes.
Yeah, I think from what I remember, it's the biggest safari outside of Africa. At least the biggest drive-through safari outside of Africa. And now I believe it's only drive-through, but when I was a kid, you could take your own car through, or now it's only buses. Like you have to get on a bus or something. But when I was a kid, you could drive through and the monkeys would climb on your car. And I always wondered what would happen if like the monkey climbed into the car. Like, could you just drive off with the monkey? Like that never happened as far as I know, but I always wondered.
Like I remember like they used to like hit your car. I was like,
yeah,
well, what if somebody opened the door and just said, come home with me, like, and just took off? Okay, I'm not remembering it like incorrectly.
Yeah, I wonder if they count their monkeys at the end of the day, if there are ever fewer monkeys than they started out with.
Like, not enough monkeys coming on. All right. All right, so back to the book. So let's talk about the other contestants. Which one was your favorite one to write about? I have to say I had a soft spot, even though Sadie did not like him, Vanilla Joe. I don't know why it was about Vanilla Joe. There's something about him. He just seems so, I guess, focused. The fact that he would get into a fake showmance, just to try and, I mean, I don't know. There's something about him that I like. But which one was your favorite to write about?
I really love hearing you say that because, for those who haven't read the book, Vanilla Joe is almost kind of like the villain of the cast. And I'm really glad that you like him, because that means he didn't come off as like, just the jerk, or like just, the villain. That I was trying to give him layers and complexity to show like, he's a person too. He's a good contestant too. So I'm really glad that you liked him. As far as the others, I really liked, it's hard to pick one because I liked all of them. Like each of them were fun to write in their own way. I'd have to say I really like Nia. She kind of sprang. Usually it takes time to get a character right, and like, it'll take a while to kind of get to know them and figure out who they are and what makes them tick. But Nia kind of sprang into my head fully formed, just with all of her quirks and her cooking style and everything that she kind of wanted. She is very focused on numbers and statistics and things like that. She is afraid of losing control and always tries to plan everything that she can. And part of her journey in the competition is learning that you can't plan everything, that you do sometimes have to be spontaneous, and that's okay. You have to sometimes just like let your heart take the lead and not your head, and that's okay. And a lot of that came from me trying to make my way in publishing in the book world, because just as in that, sometimes like, there are a lot of things that you can't control. Like I'm a little bit of a control freak, but I can't control, so much about this process. And so part of her journey was also my journey. And I really liked getting to write about that.
Yeah, I think I felt like I liked her too, because I felt like she did have a thing with control. And I felt like as she went on, they were like trying to convey to her to like, you have to let some of that go, because, she was all about statistics. And I mean, yes, a lot of that in cooking is true, but she had to like let it go. So
right.
Yeah, I liked her too. So I have a question about, at the end of the book, there was Best Served Hot. Is that the next?
Yes, Best Served Hot is my next book. It's another rom-com that comes out in spring 2023. And the way I originally pitched it way back when was dueling restaurant reviewers. So it's basically two restaurant reviewers who hate each other. One, our heroine is a restaurant reviewer, kind of from the new guard of restaurant reviewers who reviews on social media. And the hero is kind of from the old guard, from who reviews professionally for a newspaper like the New York Times. And they both look down on what the other does. And of course, there is a viral video and a confrontation that leads into them being forced to do some reviews together to help both of them, because, you know, the old guard guy might have a salary and expenses paid and an official byline, but they're also losing subscribers to, you know, blogs and online review sites. And, you know, our heroine is, you know, part of that new guard where she's gaining all of that, these viewers and these readers and things like that, but she also lacks a lot of the institutional legitimacy that he has as part of the old guard. So as they are stuck reviewing together and getting to know each other, they start to connect on more than food. And it was a lot of fun to write. It was strange writing a book set in so many restaurants and about restaurant food during the COVID pandemic when restaurants were all closed. But I'm glad I was the kind of, you know, I'm that obnoxious person who takes pictures of her food. Every single thing that I eat, I take a picture of it. So I was glad I had that because I could go back and draw on those for inspiration while all the restaurants were closed.
So does that mean that the book after will be about food too, or food themes, or is that it, or you don't know yet?
I hope so. I would love to continue writing about food. I think even if I do end up changing direction and writing, you know, about something that's not a chef or, you know, officially set in the food world, even if it's set, you know, on Broadway or, you know, in an office, there's still going to be a lot of food descriptions and a lot of food in it. I can promise that.
So I just wanted to say that I really, really enjoyed this book and I highly recommend it to everybody. So if you are a patron of Syosset, put it on hold and we have it on our shelves. So thank you very much for talking to me today, and can't wait to read the next one.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here, and I hope you all enjoy the book.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.